Ordinary American citizens are crying because of increased inflation, increasing homeless people on the streets of major cities, and inadequate infrastructure. The United States has bankrolled about 70% of Israel's war expenses since October 7, 2023. Though not surprising, the U.S. has provided at least $22.76 billion in military aid to Israel. But what does this actually mean for American taxpayers? And what is the human cost on the ground in Gaza? Stay tuned as we unravel the hidden truth behind this conflict's financial and human toll. It is a topic that Washington doesn't want you to question. According to a report by Brown University's Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs, the U.S. has spent at least $22.76 billion on military aid to Israel from October 7, 2023 to September 30, 2024, which amount to 70% of Israel's war cost. That's tens of billions of American taxpayer dollars directed towards conflict thousands of miles away from them. The question that is going through your mind right now is, why is the U.S. willing to spend such a staggering amount to finance the war of another country? The relationship between the United States and Israel has been one of the most steadfast alliances in modern history. Since the creation of Israel on May 14, 1948, the U.S. has been its most crucial ally, providing billions of dollars in military aid, diplomatic support, and strategic assistance. The 1967 Six-Day Israel and a coalition of Arab states war marked the turning point, solidifying Israel's reliance on the U.S. military aid to maintain its military edge. Over the decades, this partnership has evolved, with the U.S. contributing billions annually to Israel's defense budget, including advanced weaponry, missile defense systems, and economic support. Now that we have established the relationship between the U.S. and Israel, let's dive into the staggering numbers behind the U.S. spending on the Israel war. According to reports, $17.9 billion were spent on direct military aid to Israel and $4.86 billion on U.S. military operations in the war zone, including actions against Houthi forces in Yemen, such as deploying aircraft carriers and air defense batteries in the region. The $22.76 billion is just the tip of the iceberg. As Biden administration announced on August 13 this year, the Biden administration announced additional arms deals worth $20.3 billion, including the sale of F-15 fighter jets from Boeing. The package includes 50 combat F-15 jets, that is $18.8 billion, more than 32,000 tank munitions. That is also about $774 million. Tactical vehicle amounting to $583 million. 30 advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles, that's also amounting to $102 million, and 50,000 mortar rounds, also amounting to $61 million, according to reports. The amount of aid the U.S. has given to Israel highlights Israel's standing, as the country has received most of U.S. aid since World War II, totaling $251.2 billion over 66 years. While American tax dollars fund welfare abroad, domestic issues like healthcare, education, and infrastructure remain underfunded. Critics say that this represents a misalignment of priorities that are determined more geopolitically interested than the needs of the American people. While the U.S. is being criticized for funding genocide, violence, and oppression against the people of Gaza, the alliance is driving a wedge between the U.S. and the rest of the world, while many allies and international bodies, including the United Nations, repeatedly condemning Israel airstrikes as disproportionate and urging ceasefire. Despite countless resolutions passed by the United Nations urging the end of the blockade on Gaza and calling for two-state solution, the United States has frequently used its veto power to shield Israel from international censure. The human cost of Israel war on Gaza is greater than you think, according to reports from the United Nations and other humanitarian institutions. Now, over 100,000 Gazans have died, including women and children. 42,000 people are wounded. Key infrastructure, that is 88% of schools, 21 out of 36 hospitals, and 45 of 105 health facilities have been destroyed. Gaza's economy has lost $35.8 billion in unrealized GDP, leaving it at 350 years behind its pre-conflict levels. Over 90% of the population is displaced, living in overcrowded shelters with scarce resources. As geopolitical alliances shift and the global landscape changes, America's role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains a deeply divisive issue. The question is, can the U.S. continue to support Israel at any cost, especially when it comes to human lives and taxpayer dollars? The ongoing funding of Israel by the U.S. despite the humanitarian crisis, its hands full, raises ethical questions about the U.S. foreign policy. While the U.S. claims to stand for freedom and human rights, its support for Israel's military campaigns in Gaza often tells a different story. The reality is that every American taxpayer dollar spent on foreign war is a dollar not spent on healthcare, education, and the basic needs of American people. Is it worth it? Or is it a time for U.S. to reassess their taxpayer dollars where it's really needed? This is a conversation that the American people must have, a conversation that Washington for too long has avoided. Let us know what you think in the comment. Should the U.S. continue its unwavering support for Israel, or is it time for a change? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay informed on all latest updates.